Okay. Welcome, everybody. I'm Brian Haas, Superintendent of Schools. Glad to have you here for our third community forum focused on the Green Meadow Elementary School building project. Here tonight, we have a great crew and a lot of information to share. So to start with, I'm going to turn it over to Jerry Colbert, who's going to introduce the building committee.
Thank you, Brian. For introductions, my name is Jerry Colbert. I am the chair of the school building committee for Green Meadow. So the building committee consists of 19 members. So it's a good size, a good diverse group of folks. Greg Johnson, town administrator. Brian, who you just met, superintendent of schools. Rob Savoy, director of building facilities. Rob Rouleau, principal for Green Meadow School. Jennifer Gaudette, community representative. Katie Moore, finance committee member. Anthony Bidet, community representative. Nick Kane is a co-chair of this committee and a community representative. Justine St. John, select board member. Mary Branley, school committee member. Justin DeMarco, DPW director. Chris De Silva, select board member. Charles Gabron, special projects coordinator for the school department. Wayne White, business manager, public school system. Mark Anderson, community representative. Matthew Johan, community representative. Ken Newhouser represents the sustainability committee, and Hillary Griffiths, school committee. So you can see it's a pretty diverse business and working group of folks here. So we've enjoyed it, and we've got a great design team and project management team. And with that, I will stop talking, turn it over to Phil Palumbo. And
thanks,
take it over,
Jerry.
Phil. Welcome.
So as Jerry mentioned, my name is Phil Palumbo. I am a director with Collier's Project Leaders. We're the towns and the school district's owner's project manager on the project. To give a quick project timeline update, this past August, we submitted our preferred schematic report to the MSBA and got approval from the MSBA, the Massachusetts School Building Authority, to move ahead into their module 4, the schematic design phase. So we're currently in the midst of that phase and in the middle of the construction estimate part of that process. We're due to submit our schematic design package to the MSBA at the end of December. And from that point, a back and forth will happen between us and the MSBA in creating a project scope and budget agreement with them. And at the MSBA's board meeting on March 1st of next year, our schematic design submission, as well as a draft version of the project scope and budget agreement, will be voted on and approved. And at that point, the town and MSBA would enter into that project scope and budget agreement. And from that point, you move on into what they call Module 5, funding the project. And ultimately, that's the local vote process. And this project would require a 2-vote process. It would require a town meeting vote and then a debt exclusion vote. The current plan is to have the project's town meeting vote be included in the town's May town meeting vote of next year. And then the debt exclusion vote for the project would occur after that. Our deadline per our feasibility study agreement with the MSBA to get both votes completed is July 1st of next year. At that point, if the project's lucky enough to be approved by the Maynard taxpayers, it would then move on into the rest of design, with construction bidding being slated for spring of 2024. So that construction could then start summer of 2024. With the new building and new site being occupiable for students and staff the school year of 2026-2027. And then project closeout would take approximately a year. With that, I'll hand it over to Mount Vernon Group so they can get into their design update.
Thanks, Phil. Good evening. I'm Chris LeBlanc. I'm the project manager with Mount Vernon Group Architects. At this point, I'd like to take the opportunity to share with you tonight the updated progress on the proposed Green Meadow Elementary School project. So first, let's talk a little bit about what we've done over the last few months. We've actually been refining the building and site plans since our last community forum to best address the educational program requirements of the district and the elementary school. And we've done this through various meetings with the school administration, staff, and facilities personnel. along with multiple meetings with the school building committee. So we've continued to refine this project to meet the district's goals. We've also met with various town departments to gain some input. For example, we met with DPW as to how they best maintain the site, the materials they'd like to use for resiliency and maintenance. We've met with public safety personnel with regards to safety and security for both the building and site. And we'll continue to meet with these departments and other departments as the project progresses through the process. We've also been meeting with sustainability subcommittee to discuss sustainability design elements for the building and site and the potential for eliminating on-site fossil fuel for the use of the building operations. We've held several meetings over the past few months. We've had some participants from the town's green committee, sustainability committee. That process has been going relatively well. We're still looking at big picture items as to best suit the town of Maynard for years to come. And once again, as the project gets approved and moves forward, we'll be continuing these efforts in much more detail. So some of the overall design features I'd like to share with you, and that we'll see on the upcoming slides, have presented themselves from our meetings with the various stakeholders, as well as the visioning workshops that took place earlier this past year. And some of those will include improved site circulation for both vehicular and pedestrian access. And what we've done, we've created separate bus and parent drop-off locations at the school, which will give us the ability to create a safe separation for both activities and get cars off Great Drive, even closer to the building from the Great, I'll say the Crow Park parking lot. We've also improved some of the walkways to and around the school and play areas for student community access, minimizing the crossing of any drives or parking areas to the best of the ability. Again, this is the schematic design. We're going to continue to review this with the district, with public safety personnel, et cetera, as the project progresses. The provisions for age-appropriate play areas with various play equipment and features, including modern safety surfacing, have been located close to the building without having students to cross drives or parking areas at the request of the school administration. And as part of the input from the public safety officials, they want to be able to see these play areas for after hours that are being used by community, again, to provide a safe and secure area for students and security, both during and after school hours. The building efficient that we've provided is very efficient and promotes easy wayfinding for the young student population, as well as the community use, as you'll see in the upcoming slides. The two classroom wings are located on either side of the central common core of the building, and they're designed as secure classroom grade neighborhood, which will also promote inclusion and collaboration amongst both the staff and students for each particular grade. Natural daylighting and comfort is really essential to any learning environment, and thoughtfully located windows and HVAC systems that will provide both heating and cooling as well as natural ventilation is a part of our design features. And you'll see as we go through some of the slides and the graphics, there's plenty of natural daylighting through windows. There's a couple of skylights over the common core area, et cetera. So again, promoting healthy use of the building by the occupants. And as a result of the discussion with sustainability subcommittee members, energy efficient LED lighting and controls are part of the design, as well as we're looking to provide an all electric HVAC equipment, thereby eliminating the need for fossil fuel building operation. This is one of the goals of the sustainability subcommittee. I believe it's also one of the goals of being a net zero ready building, as recommended by the town's green committee. The roof of the building will be ready to accept solar PVs on site for renewable energy as the project moves forward as well. And then various site features are also being explored, such as low maintenance landscape, rain gardens, electrical vehicle charging stations and such. So what I'd like to do now is share with you the updated plans and discuss some of the features as well as the rendering graphics. So this slide will indicate the first floor plan. You'll notice in the central core area is the main shared spaces for both school and community use. That will include the central administration area, the gymnasium, cafetorium, which does have a stage for school plays and community use during after hours and weekends. There will be a full kitchen. Currently, I believe some of the lunches are also prepared at Fowler School as well as in the existing school. This full kitchen will give them the full ability to prepare everything on site for the staff and students. There'll be a full maintenance area in that main core as well for custodial use, receiving of materials, etc., a music room. And then also as part of the central core area, we have a parents' room for the after-school programs, the PTA groups, and then just general meetings with parents and staff and students, as well as an occupational physical therapy location and space for the schools after school and before school programs. And then that central core is flanked on either side by 2 classroom wings. If we take a look at the right-hand side, it locates the pre-K and kindergarten classrooms with toilet facilities included in each of those spaces. Students never have to leave there. There's also some special education spaces included in that wing. One of the things you'll notice about this particular wing and all the wings is that there's a set of doors at the beginning that will help close off and secure each classroom wing in the event of unwanted intruders. And then there's a stairwell in each location, again, with doors that will have locking capabilities to either access each floor or preventing access from floor to floor if need be. To the left on the lower left-hand side is the grade 1 classroom wing. This classroom wing will be identical to the 2nd and 3rd grades on the upper floors. You'll have the same classroom configurations, toilet facilities, and special education spaces located within. This will also help provide students that move up grade to grade from year to year, again, with familiarity and comfort in their educational process. They're not trying to relearn or re-navigate these locations. And we find that student comfort and the ability to just relax and learn just becomes second nature at this location. And as with the second floor, if you look at the first floor, it's really providing easy wayfinding. Both classroom wings are easily accessible to the main locations for the cafeteria, the gymnasium, and student services in the administration and health suites located in the brown areas. If we move to the second floor, identical spaces for the classroom wings are flanked again by common core areas in the central location. So we will have a main central stairwell, if you will, coming up from the main lobby to the main core area on the second floor. And that is also adjacent to an elevator provided for a number of different reasons, right? Students and staff that need assistance in navigating floor to floor activity, as well as public safety access with equipment. Once we get up to the second floor, the main focus will be the media center or library. That media center will have approximately 3 different areas located within. One will be a reading area with a lot of natural light and comfortable seating. It will have the bookcases with all the reading materials, et cetera, and a circulation desk. And then to the right, there's a folding partition or folding door that will isolate an area for an additional teaching space for instructional activities, et cetera. That could be anything from the use of, technology instruction, computer instruction, or just general classroom instruction. Adjacent to the media center is an STE room, a STEAM room, science, technology, engineering, and math, and it's got 2 larger doors to access the media center. What this space will help provide is the ability for the school's technology and engineering programs, right? They teach various robotics and things of that nature. So this provides an area for very flexible teaching aspect in those areas. And it's adjacent to the media center for flexibility of co-teaching with their various activities that exist. Across from that STEAM room is the art room, which is accessible and usable by all students in the classroom neighborhoods. And then centrally located across from the immediate area will be the guidance suite. We've located this on the second floor for two reasons. One, it provides additional administration location on the second floor to help with student activities and monitoring student access throughout the school. And when we met with the guidance staff, they found it to be very beneficial because then it provides them with easy access to all parts of the school, specifically the second and third grade, the older students, but they still have full access to the lower grades as well. And then once again, flanked by this central core area would be the second grade to the lower left and the third grade to the right. If you look at these classroom neighborhoods, again, there's 5 standard classrooms. There's a special education classroom, special education resource classroom, and then full toilet facilities for both staff and students. So in theory, these classroom grade neighborhoods foster the collaboration and comfort and inclusiveness that is very important to early childhood learning. And again, students are comfortable within their own neighborhood while they still can migrate and join other classroom neighborhoods. It just provides and fosters a very intimate learning area for students and staff. So we move on to the site plan. Our general site use shows the existing Green Meadow Elementary School in this darker hashed outline. And then the new school would be built and located behind the existing school. Once that school is constructed, the students will then move over to the new school. The existing school will be demolished, and then the further development of the site will take place. And as we come in at the top right-hand corner from Great Drive, where item number 17 is, we'll come into Tiger Drive. The road will continue to peel off to the left towards the Fowler School as it currently does, and the drive will continue up and around towards the new school. Once it gets to a certain location around the first curve, the drive will then split. The left-hand or item towards the front of the school will be the bus drop-off and staff and visitor parking. The parent drop-off will continue around the back of the school as it works along to the lower right-hand portion of the building, where items number 6 and 14 are. That will be a single lane staff drop-off. Parent drop-off. That will allow cars to queue up, especially in inclement weather, get their kids in to a safe environment. Staff is usually populating this location to receive the children, and then parents and buses will continue off to the location to Tiger Drive and back out. There will be additional parking in the back towards that student drop-off area for staff. Currently, we've added about 120 parking spaces in addition to the 85 or so that will remain down at Crow Park. In the event that school does have community events or larger events and parking is needed, we do have along the drive access for parallel parking. The parent drive is typically a one-way that comes around the school, but it is wide enough to facilitate, if you will, additional parallel parking along that road. And there are a number of access points within the building. The main one being the front, which would be item number 14. There is also an access point at number 5 in the back where the student gardens are, and I'll show you that in some of the perspectives that we have. And then item 14 here at the bottom is where the student drop-off and pickup area will be. Once the existing school is demolished, additional parking in the front, a play field in the front of the building that will enable both phys ed, student and staff to hold end of the year events, communities, and the town youth athletic programs can also use this space for practice and instructional purposes. If we look to the left of the developed area, items 16 and 10 are two developed I'll call it structured play areas. Item number 16 will be the closest one to the school. That will house the pre-K play structures and play area. Item number 10 will house equipment and play areas for grades kindergarten, first, second, and third grade. Both locations will be fenced in for security and safety of students and will be accessible by the community during after-hours events. The community can come in, park in the front of the building after hours, and the close proximity of those spaces will take place. One of the things that public safety officials, specifically the police department, wanted was that the play areas be very visible from the main drive and entrance for easy safety and security monitoring. Anything around the back was kind of moved to the front to facilitate their request. If we move on, we'll show you a number of the building perspectives in the site development. So the lower right-hand corner will be Great Road, where it currently exists, and then Tiger Drive, that doesn't change, with Crow Park parking off to the right. As you come in Tiger Drive, you'll notice a couple of colored pickleball courts that are looking to be planned as part of the community enhancement of the overall project. As we come in along that drive and continue to the right, you'll notice that the road does split, where the buses will peel off to the left and public parent drop off and pickup cars will continue around the front. It shows you a nice view of how that project is going to sit on the site once the building is developed, along with play fields in the front, structured play areas to the right, and parking in the front and to the left. A closer view will give you an example of what some of the building will look like. Traditional brick veneers. We're still working on the color selection and schemes, but the thought was to create some color with the windows and trims around the windows to create that playful view that makes it an elementary school, right? It's an early childhood school, so we want to make sure it's fun and inviting and age appropriately, not intimidating, etc. So you can also see the play areas a little bit more clearly. There is an area here in front of those play areas with a little bit of a walk. That area currently exists in an existing elementary school. It's currently an outcropping of rock and trees and stuff. We're looking to preserve that for a number of reasons. The thought was to clean that up, provide some maybe picnic table and seating area in there, and also make it part of the development as green space to be used for a number of different functions during school and community activities. One of the things you'll notice to the left at the end of the wing is this tanned area. This will be a fenced-in outdoor classroom space for staff to bring individual classrooms out for learning activities outdoor on nice days and during nice weather. As we move along to different views of the site, this gives us a different view and a much better view of the play areas. There will be structured play equipment as well as a small basketball court. The surfacing for these two play areas is pervious, which means it allows water to drain through it. It is very environmentally friendly and very safe. It's very cushioned. So it provides very safe fall protection for staff and, well, not so much staff, but the students that use the space, as opposed to the old wood chips and things of that nature that used to get brushed around, they get compressed. These safety surfaces are the most up-to-date surfaces available to projects today. So you can see as we come along, there's cars here that will start to continue around the backside where the parent drop-offs. This area will also be used for deliveries, et cetera, during and after school hours. And this will also give you a better view of how the bus drop-off will work in the front with parking for staff and visitors. This just gives you a general view of entering the staff parking area from the front, showing some of the colors that are anticipated for the school around the windows and trims, just to provide a little bit of early elementary school excitement, if you will. This will be a closer view of the front entrance. That middle area where the large expanse of windows and yellow trims are would be the seating area in the library on the second floor, overlooking the front courtyard space. The plantings around the building are looking to be low maintenance plants and natural to the region, if you will. So we'll work with our landscape architect and the project team, if you will, to make sure that this area is inviting and easily maintainable. This is a view of the parent drop off where we have that single lane drop off. So cars will queue up. Staff will be there to greet the children as they're coming in or being picked up. Some schools use electronic devices so that as cars pull up, they scan a code and that tells which students should be released in which order. It organizes in a very good way, if you will, the safety and security of dropping students off and picking them up. And that'll be something we'll work with the school administration on. And then our last view, if you will, is a view from behind. It shows in the lower back side the exit out of the cafetorium. We will have some raised planting beds for student gardens. Schools will use some of these things in their lunch planning and meal planning. And then also there was a couple of exits off the gymnasium too. There will still be some smaller play area in the back that currently exists for PE and whatnot during school hours. And you can see the additional parking off to the right. What we're not showing on the roof is the PV system, but the majority of the roof will be accessible for these units to the extent possible around any rooftop equipment, etc. From here, I'll turn it over to Phil for project cost update.
Thanks, Chris. So on this slide, again, like Chris just mentioned, project cost analysis. I had mentioned earlier in the presentation, we're kind of in the middle part of the schematic design construction cost estimate. So because of that, we don't have a reconciled construction cost estimate to share. But on the slide here is a cost per square foot slide or graph that the Massachusetts School Building Authority puts together. And what it does is, this is all their projects that chose to go ground up or new construction like we did. It dates back to 2009 and then kind of forecasts out to projects that are going out to bid all the way through 2024. But ultimately, all these projects that have previously bid, those orange squares are essentially where they came in at bid time wise, cost per square foot wise. So that orange line that kind of heads due upper right of the graph, we kind of continued it on in that dashed orange line, tracking it all the way to our spring 2024 bid time frame to get a general understanding as to where we're potentially going to fall and where potentially our schematic design cost estimate is going to show us falling relative to construction costs. So to create a range, we're utilizing that kind of falls us on $650 a square foot to $700 a square foot. So when you take those costs per square foot, apply them to our building size, which is roughly 90,300 square feet, that gives you a rough construction cost estimate range of $58.7 million to $63.2 million. And then when you take that estimated construction cost range and kind of translate it into a total project cost, so you got 80% construction costs and then 20% soft costs, you got an estimated total project cost range of $73.4 million to $79 million. And so to anticipate or try to gauge what the MSBA share will be and what the local share will be, we understand what MSBA considers ineligible reimbursement costs. So you remove those from the total project costs and what's remaining is considered eligible reimbursement costs. And you apply our reimbursement rate to those eligible reimbursement costs, which is currently 56%. So that gives you a MSBA share range of 24.8 million to 25 million. So roughly 32% to 34%. And then the local share range of roughly 48.6 million to 54 million, or roughly 66% to 68%. With that, I'll hand it over to Superintendent Haas to close things out for us.
Great, thanks, Phil.
Yeah.
And Chris, great job. A lot of good information there. Just to let you know, we have information on our website, which the information's here. Also on a Facebook page for the Green Meadow Building Project, and on the town page as well. So there's multiple ways that you can stay informed of the building project and as it progresses. At this time, if there are any questions, we have some really talented people here, and I'll turn it over to, I think, Phil, and let him kind of manage who can answer what question, because it's probably either going to be a design question or a project manager question at this point. So if
Yep.
you can use the raise your hand option, that'll tell us, or if you want to type into the chat, we'll be able to see that as well. Does that work for you, Phil?
That's perfect. Yeah, raise your
All right.
hand or type into the chat.
Thanks, everybody. Other questions?
Okay, we got a question from Walter, hand raised from Walter. I'll unmute you, Walter. Go ahead, Walter.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for this presentation. Very informative, and thank you for the committee for putting on this great display. And I know a lot of work goes into this. I'm in the process where I work right now doing the same thing. So thank you for your hard work. Great looking school, great design. But the one question, or some of the questions I'd like to talk about, is why are we going all green? We have the infrastructure already in place with the gas line there. To give you a background of myself, I'm a facilities engineer from Mass Maritime. I'm a current fire chief, and I'm a logistics manager for a federal disaster. And I've responded to everything except earthquakes. I've had to stay in schools like this. And when I've been in those schools to help in the emergency with wildland fires, I just was down in Florida for the Hurricane Ian. I had to stay in these schools. And if you are to limit first responders, or this will probably most likely be a shelter in Maynard, and you not having that infrastructure of gas into these buildings, you're already hamstringing us with hot showers. You're hamstringing us with the food and all that stuff. And I just don't think that's a smart thing to do. And trust me, I have solar panels. I've written a paper on climate change. I'm not denying any of that stuff. I just don't believe in one source of power, i.e. you going all green. I agree with the solar panels. I am not convinced at all on energy storage systems, but I don't see that being put here because of thermal runaway and all that. But gas is, you can have high efficiency boilers. That's what I was doing prior at Mass Maritime. You can have all this stuff and make a great school, a very energy efficient school, but to be a all green facility, I'll be the first one to tell you, I'm going to vote no on this, and I'll make that pitch at any town meeting. I'd like to hear your comments on why you're going all green, and not only that, the price tag of some of these green things are very, very, very expensive. So I'd like to hear that. Thank you.
Thanks, Walter. Chris, you want to take that?
Sure. So Walter, one of the reasons we're going green is it's been kind of the direction we've been given by, the building committee, the sustainability subcommittee, et cetera, to make this project green, not only looking at the initial costs for such equipment, if you will, but also the operating and life cycle costs of equipment down the road, and trying to save money along those lines, and reducing the the carbon footprint, if you will, not only the operation but the building itself, right? So that's the kind of the direction we've been giving, and that's the way the project has been evolving. We've had sustainability subcommittee meetings. There have been members of the town's green committee or sustainability committee present, and they've also kind of given us suggestions as a group. So that's kind of the direction we're going in at this point. Hopefully that answers your question.
Well, I would suggest in favor of putting high energy efficient gas boilers in there, or something that's, and then what are you going to do are you going to do a diesel generator? Because as a logistics manager, you're going to run out of diesel in 48 hours. So just put yourself in my shoes. I come in to help your community. Now you're hamstringing me because I got to get you a generator. I got to get you diesel when you could have already had that in place. But going all green, I get what you're doing. And the solar panels will help your carbon, will help reduce some of that stuff. So I think the price cost of some of this high energy stuff is very expensive and would probably bring down the price tag a little bit. That's all I have.
Thanks, Walter. One more person can kind of add to the response to Walter's question. Ken Newhouser from the Maynard Sustainability Committee. Ken, if you want to chime in.
Yeah, sure, Phil. I think Walter's actually throwing us a bit of a chocolate vanilla twist of a couple of different issues here. There's the going green, and also I'll say three things. There's the issue of sustainability and green. There's the issue of going with electric and no fossil fuel hookup, and then there's the question of shelter for the building. And I think it was determined early on that this building would not be a shelter, so would not be having overnight guests, if you will, so that there are other facilities in town that will be charged with that function for the town. And so there will be, I think we've talked about the idea of having a diesel generator for backup power. And that, as you say, it does have a limit of how far we go on a tank. It's also, it's a truck away to fill that tank. So we can keep that.
It's a gas pipe away from having it unlimited. That's all.
Yeah. Well, and so that there's different ways of getting there, and the team determined that this was the most cost-effective way. And to meet other goals, we could have on-site storage of we're storing the energy in the diesel in a tank. There's other ways we could store it too, but that seems to be, in today's technology, their best way to do it. And this gives us flexibility to adapt going forward.
Thanks, Ken.
You got it.
So a couple more people raised their hands, and then I got a question in the chat. So I'll try to go in order. Leslie Bryant, I'm going to unmute you. I think you should be able to unmute, Leslie.
Oh, okay. How about now?
All good, yep.
Okay, so I have a concern about, it looks like in the design that the proposed pickleball court is going to be where that small forest is between the current parking lot off of 117 and where the current school is. And I know that there have been many people who have expressed concern to this committee about preserving those woods. And if that's what's being, that's what the fate of those trees is for a pickleball court, I think that's, it's going to upset a lot of people. And I think it's very short-sighted. And it goes against the whole idea of being as green as we possibly can. And I can't imagine that a pickleball court couldn't be placed somewhere else on the school property.
Thank you, Leslie. Chris, you want to put up
Sure.
the site plan slide?
Okay, let me get that back up for us. So this one. So Leslie, regarding your question, the pickleball courts, there's an existing area that is currently paved adjacent to the parking. Between the parking and the woods, there are some trees between the two as well. But there's an existing paved area that we're looking to refurbish to provide this amenity. Obviously, we want to preserve as many of the trees as possible to continue with the green concept of the design. We will also be looking to plant additional trees as part of the design. You'll notice in the front area here, just to the left as you enter Tiger Drive, we're looking to be planting some trees as well as up around in the back. So That's the goal, is to keep it green and improve it. But that area where the pickleball courts is currently paved, so we're looking just to refurbish that area as part of the community use of the project.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Leslie. I think the next person that raised their hand was Danny Schisler. Danny, I'll ask you to unmute.
Hi, thanks so much. My name's Danny Schisler. I'm a parent here in Maynard. Thank you for the presentation. It's really clear and it's a very exciting looking school and landscape plan. I just want to applaud your goal of preserving as many trees as possible and ask if there'd be any possibility for the landscape team to work with the Maynard Tree Committee so that we could potentially provide some input on the types of native plantings that would be used around the landscape. I also commend the team on the use of net zero HVAC infrastructure. I think that that's the way the wind is blowing, and it's great to see you equipping this school with what I think will be very common in the next few decades. I just want to speak to what Walter brought up, which was emergency power. And I am also a facilities manager, facilities and operations manager at a nonprofit. And our emergency generators, which run on diesel, are a lifesaver when we have outages. So I would just urge the team to make sure that you consider capacity to support, at the very least, life safety systems and HVAC systems, and potentially overbuild your generators, because inevitably you're always going to be adding on to those emergency generator circuits. So if you're going totally electric, I would just emphasize having that emergency backup plan with the diesel generators. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. And yes, we can definitely engage the town tree committee to understand bush plantings and tree design for the new plantings, et cetera, for the site layout. So before I go to hands raised, I think there was in the chat, Kate Wheeler, how well understood is the ground on which the building is planned? I've heard it's fill, I've heard ledge. How thoroughly do we know it to avoid expensive surprises? Chris, you want to speak to that?
Sure. So early on in the project, we had a number of test pits. I'm sorry, not test pits, but borings taken where we were looking to either do the new school scheme or an ad reno scheme. We did encounter some ledge where the new building is going to be located, some 12 feet below the surface, and in other areas a little bit shallower. So with these borings, we will be taking more borings and performing more test pits when the project moves forward. We've taken this information from our geotech engineer, who's prepared the report. We've passed that along to our civil engineer. And based on site inspections and the borings, they have and are preparing calculations for potential ledge removal to be included in our estimates. The estimators are also doing the necessary cut and fills as to where, based on our preliminary grading plans and development, on where the fill should be removed and taken and brought in. So that's a constant process. Our schematic design estimate will carry a pretty good number based on that information. But when the project moves forward, we're going to do much more in the way of soil exploration and whatnot to make sure we have identified everything that we can, very specifically for the building structure at the very least, as well as any other improvements. So that's an ongoing process. But our schematic design estimate will have good numbers based on the data we currently have to carry at this point.
Thanks, Chris. Aaron, I see you, but I think Colleen Andrade had a couple chat questions in her chat before you. Colleen, do you want to just bring up those questions?
Sure. I have Joanne Tamino. She says, hello, beautiful building. My question is about how many classes there are per grade now, class size currently, and what the census projection is for the upcoming classes. Is 5 classes per grade enough? For comparison, I believe the MHS class of 2022 had 8 kindergarten classes when they were in kindergarten.
All right, Chris, you want to take that?
So I didn't catch all of it, but so each grade level has 5 classrooms. I'll go back to the plan. And we start with the first floor. So pre-K and K have more than 5 just by nature of the growth of the pre-K program. But if you look down on the lower left, grade 1 will have 5 traditional classrooms and 1 special education classroom. These numbers meet the design enrollment, the class size as projected by the district and MSBA for that matter. They're the ones that project the enrollment. They work through that with the school administration. So each grade level will be designed to have 5 classrooms and 1 special education classroom, with the exception of pre-K. Pre-K has, I believe, 5 classrooms, including the special ed. And then 5 kindergarten. So that should meet the enrollment, the design enrollment of about 400 students.
And then Superintendent Haas or Principal Rouleau, I don't know if you guys want to add any color to that answer.
I would just say that I think Chris is accurate, that they did their enrollment studies looking at past, current, and future enrollment numbers. So I believe this is adequate for where we are and where we're headed.
Perfect. Thank you. Colleen, you had one more in your chat, I think.
Yes, I have several questions. from Robbins. Will students arriving by bus enter through the main front doors while students dropped by car enter along the side? Same with exiting. Students leaving by bus leave through the front doors while students waiting for parents congregate where?
Okay, so Chris, the question is parent pickup, where's that location?
So the parent pickup, if you look at the plan, is going to be to the left as they come around this left side of the building. There's a pair of doors here. So what we are going to do is to continue to work with the school administration as to how those students queue up. As I've mentioned in other school districts, and we've mentioned this to Rob and his staff, was that at some point, parents are allowed to scan a code in the order that they're pulling up to the school. That will then better assist the staff to get kids out in an orderly fashion in the order that the cars are lining up. So we don't have, little Johnny's first to go out, but his parent is 10th in line. So there's some work to do with the administration to help coordinate those efforts. But there will be room for students to queue. In some locations, they'll also wait in the gym or the cafetorium while the buses are coming and going. I believe that might be similar to some of the methods that they currently use with some students waiting in the cafeteria.
Thanks, Chris. Colleen, I'll now go to mine. I know you got some left, but I think Aaron McCloskey, I'll ask you to unmute.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Aaron McCloskey, 6 Howard Road. I just want to thank everyone on the building committee for all their hours spent volunteering their time. Looks like a great plan, great design. Thanks for the representatives from Collier on this presentation. Very clear, concise. Looks like a great site plan location. It's an exciting project. A little bit about, I guess, my background. For those that don't know, I used to work for the town of Maynard as a facilities manager, director of public works, sat in on a number of committees for the town. A couple of things I just would like to note. My background similar to Walter's, Mass Maritime Facilities Management. I'm also a member of that federal disaster response team. Couple things, just from an emergency management standpoint, I think that this site really needs to be considered for a shelter if it does get constructed. The town only has 2 other buildings that would be feasible for shelters for the residents of Maynard. 10,000 people in town. If there's going to be some type of a major disaster and people needed a shelter, we would need the space. I think that the local emergency planning committee should be involved in discussion to determine whether or not this is a shelter or not considered a shelter. I don't know if that discussion has been done. But you should always plan for the worst and hope for the best. So I know there was a comment earlier about, decision was made. I think that's a wrong decision. I wasn't involved in the conversation, but it's just my initial thought. I think anytime we have a public municipal building of this size, it has capacity to be a multi-use facility in times of need. We need to utilize that. Second comment is green can mean a lot of different things. I chaired the Maynard Green Communities Committee before there's a sustainability committee in town, worked on a number of projects, retrofitting school, lighting, heating systems, to reduce, the town's energy use. So I know what that means, and it means a lot of different things. It doesn't just mean go all electric. I think that's a wrong move. I think we, again, need to be able to have multi-use facilities. And if you have a rolling blackout and all the electricity is down, you got no way to power the building unless you have a generator. And to Walter's comment about, generator and trucking in the fuel, it's not just as easy as calling it a tanker. Because if in Massachusetts, if we have a problem, 360 other communities in the Commonwealth are having the same problem, and we're all calling the same vendors for the same fuel. And there's going to be a long waiting list for that tanker to come up and refuel our generators. So that needs to be a consideration. It's not just as easy as going down to the local gas station and filling up a jug and bringing it back to the school. A couple other things, I don't know if there's discussions with the current facilities department, the school facilities department, and town public works, but really designing a school that any mechanical, HVAC, electrical utility systems can all be accessible and maintained. The newer the buildings, the more complicated the systems, the harder they are to maintain, the more skills and knowledge you need to be able to maintain the systems. The town has built a couple of great facilities recently, but from what I've seen in my experience, the town hasn't not budgeted enough for the maintenance of those, the training of the employees, making sure we have enough resources to maintain those buildings. That price point, $79 million, is a lot of money to spend. And if we don't maintain it, it's just gonna be spent another $79 million in another 20 years. So I think that's a really consideration I hope the group is working on and considering. It's a lot of money to spend. On that same point, it is a small town. There's 10,000 people in this town in 5 square miles. $79 million is a huge price tag. I think the tax rate continues to go up, and I think it's something that needs to be considered on that. We're a small town, Maynard. It's a blue collar community. A lot of hardworking people work hard for our money. And I know we're surrounded by a lot of affluent communities, but I think we really got to consider that price point when we're looking at an elementary school. I have a son that goes to Green Meadow now. I have another son that'll be at Green Meadow in a couple of years. So my kids won't benefit from the school, but a lot of other people will, and I hope that it's just priced accordingly for the people in Maynard, and we're not pricing the people out of town. Those are my kind of points. Again, just considerations of my first meeting I'm attending for the building committee, but I plan on attending in the future. Again, thanks to everyone, the municipal officials, the employees of the town, and again, the residents that have spent a lot of time and hours and effort putting in a plan. It looks great. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate it. So I see you, Ned. I just got a couple questions in the chat. So this is from Sarah. What happens to the existing play area / structures? Chris, do you want to pull up the site plan?
So we'll be working that out with the district as to the existing play area structures. One of the problems with reusing them on the site is if, in order to maintain the warranty and everything else that goes with it, they would have to be removed and reset up and recertified by the company that installed them. So at this point, as part of the project, we're planning for all new age-appropriate play structures, things that have all the latest safety features for children of this age group, et cetera. So one of the things we'll be discussing with the town and the building committee and administration is how do we approach the existing equipment? If that's something, in fact, that they want to review and use in the project, we certainly can do that and go through that process. If it's something that they can use elsewhere in the town, then we'll assist in that endeavor as well. So it will be a discussion in the upcoming process.
Thanks, Chris. Well, actually, Ned, go ahead. I'll ask you to unmute.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Phil.
Yep.
I'm Ned Green, 33 Thompson Street here in Maynard. I'm a fifth grader, and my daughter is just finishing up in the third grade at Green Meadow. We've loved our time at the old school, but I suppose it is time to move on. Just noting at this slide right here, again, just south of the pickleball courts, it looks like it appears to be that the Crow Woods is part of the demo plan. And I know that somebody just a couple earlier was asking to make sure that just below the 7, that would be the Crow Woods where the kids all play and stuff. Again, I really think that's a cherished area. I know that the principal Rouleau can speak to that's just where the kids gravitate to. So if we could get the Crow Woods just south of the pickleball court there as part of a non-demo area, that would be amazing. I know the tree committees talked about that. The second thing I just want to bring up is one of the things that I loved about Green Meadow is that once my kids cross 117, they can walk straight to the school, and they don't have to cross a road or anything like that. It's very pedestrian friendly. And right now we finally got that blinking light on 117 3 years ago. I fought pretty hard for that with some people. And now it looks to here again, kids are going to have to cross another road. All these site plans, we're really hoping that this would be pedestrian friendly. And again, I'm looking at the slide up right now, and kids are going to have to cross another road after 117 to get to the school. So I just ask that please think about a pedestrian friendly school. The kids getting there from 117, crossing the road and not having to cross another road would be really beneficial. I don't want to have to get another blinking light there just north of the 10 on the slide, or something over there, but to have a pedestrian friendly, not crossing any more roads once we cross 117, which they can do now. They just cross it and then they can walk up to the front door and stuff would be really big. But that's it. I appreciate all the time. I know, it's hours and hours and hours, but we pick little pieces and it really is going to be for the best. I appreciate everyone's work on this. Thank you.
Thanks, Ned. So here's a question from Laura Robbins. Have you considered doing a rooftop classroom in event space over the pre-K classrooms? Could be interesting for presentations, concerts, gatherings of multiple classrooms. Also a nice place to take kids who are overwhelmed and benefit from being outside to regulate. Great view of playground properties from there as well. Rain, snow, and ice to a minimum. Keep sand and salt from getting tracked into the school. Desired, if so, that's brilliant. Chris, you want to speak to that?
Sure, Phil. So good questions. Right now I'm showing the second floor plan, and over that pre-K area where the grade 3 is. The area to the right where the roof below is, we're initially looking to populate that with PV solar panels. But one thing that is very unique about this area is that area also lends itself to the ability to expand the school on the upper floor and provide additional, 2 additional classrooms, if you will. We've done that in other projects where there is some expansion needed down the road. MSBA does like to consider that when funding these projects, and they always ask, well, what are the expansion capabilities should in fact the school grow? These schools are 50-year schools, and that's always a possibility. So right now that area is deemed and planned to be expansion for classrooms. We have talked about rooftop open areas for student learning, etc. It's something we can still consider and continue to talk to the district about. But going forward, we'll have to take that under advisement with the district as to how they want to use that, how we access it, and what the space is actually used for.
Thanks, Chris. I think I misread her question, or it was a latter question, but she says, have porticos been considered for the main entrance and the drop-off entrance? It helps keep rain, snow, and ice to a minimum, keep sand and salt from getting tracked into the school.
So the answer to that is yes. Right now, the 2 main entrances are simply the front entrance. There will be a vestibule there. That vestibule will contain walk-off mats that will help, cleaning off the shoes of debris, salt, and sand. And then typically what we also like to include is mats on the inside as well for that final cleaning, if you will, that can also be cleaned as well. So those will occur at both locations. These are basically the only 2 common entry and exits for the school for security purposes. All the other doors in the stairwells and out the rear are typically for emergency egress purposes. But yes, the short answer is vestibules will include walk-off mats to accommodate that.
Thanks, Chris. And then this is just a note of hers. After buses drop students at the main entrance, buses must make a sharp left. You want to pull up the site plan. Must make a sharp left and merge into traffic with parents coming from drop off. Suggest softening that left turn for buses so traffic is not held up.
Yeah, so that's something we are continuing to look at. These plans are the initial runs and design layouts, but there will be continual fine tuning and refining of the plans to accommodate. We will look to speak with the bus company about making sure they feel comfortable with turn radius, et cetera, and how the traffic flows and merges.
Thank you. And then one last comment. Would really like to see picnic tables with benches in the playgrounds. The few that are at Green Meadow now are heavily used, plus for eating, placing bags and supplies, doing homework, fostering conversation. Can never have enough of those. So that's her last note. A comment from Danny Schisler. I agree with Aaron regarding maintenance of the mechanical systems. A building systems manager will be needed and resources to manage increasingly complex and network integrated equipment. And then a couple items from Kira, problems with one lane pickup and drop off. 1, young kids in car seats are slow. 2, added burden on staff and kids to be ordered for pickup. And then 3, lost interactions between parents and kids coming and going, all for avoiding inclement weather. So just a comment on the one lane pickup and drop off scenario.
Sure.
That's what I have in my chat. Let me see. Colleen, do you have any more in your chat?
I do have one other from Laura Robbins, comment in this latest rendering. Does the gym open to the cafeteria when desired? And if so, that's brilliant.
I'm sorry, Colleen, I missed that.
She's asking if the gym opens to the cafeteria when desired.
Yes, so as a matter of fact, if you look at the plan for the first floor here, between the cafeteria and gymnasium, there will be an operable partition to allow a larger open space for community events, meetings, gatherings, etc. That partition will be acoustically sound, so it will provide the appropriate acoustical separation between the cafeteria and gymnasium during school events, during the school day. But yeah, that's a typical feature that we like to include to make that space, both spaces, very flexible in use.
Thanks, Chris. I got a couple comments, so I'll jump in, Colleen. I don't know if you have more. So from Nick Kane, doesn't Maynard only have a handful of buses total? Buses are not really causing traffic on the site. So that's that. And then Meg Klein asked, will the committee be sharing the comprehensive plans with the town for public review prior to the funding vote? Yes. So like I mentioned earlier, the upcoming schematic design package that's going to be submitted at the end of December, we'll make sure that's on the project website so folks can go on and download it and review that full package. So yes. Colleen, did you have any more in your chat?
No, that's all I have.
That's all I have. Let's see if there are any hands raised. I'm not seeing any. I think we did good. What do you think, Jerry?
Excellent job. Good presentation. Excellent questions. Very, very good questions tonight.
Absolutely. Yeah, so thank you all for attending, and we'll definitely be picking up the community forums now that we're kind of approaching the tail end of this feasibility study process and kind of approaching the local vote process. So keep up to date on the project Facebook page, project website. The town website also provides project updates as well. So we'll be making sure to get the word out. Thank you all.
Excellent. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.